Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. James Shembry. Yeah, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Winter just does not want to relinquish its hold on Canada, especially down here in the south, but more so in northern Ontario and all points across Canada. If you are experiencing snow and you still have snow on the ground, you're still fishing the hard water, like our good buddy Douglas is up in Hudson's Bay. I wish you well, and all I could say is hang on, because the warm weather is just around the corner. Listen, happy Easter. Hope everybody's having a great Easter Monday. Would be interesting, obviously typically at Christmas, turkeys are predominantly the food of choice. Maybe some other celebrations that we celebrate throughout the course of the year. You guys might have different entrees. What do you cook for Easter? What's your main dish for Easter? If you're having family over, is it a ham? Is it meat? Is it fish? Or is it turkey? We ourselves had turkey, and I'm assuming there's more of you out there that have turkey on Easter. But I'd be interested to know, what do you guys cook for Easter? Christina's in the house. How you doing, Christina? Ham and pierogies, Adele. Interesting. I like that. Clarence, how you doing? Nice to see you. Anne-Marie, that's a new name. Hello from middle of nowhere, BC. Anne-Marie, what's the weather like where you are? Is winter relinquishing its hold, or are you still in the grips of Dr. Freeze? How you doing, Alicia? Trevor Barnews is with us. Corey, good to see you all the way out in the West Coast. Brad Frost, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tony's in the house. Joe Moore, nice to see you. And, of course, Steve Shaw, and a big shout-out to Steve Shaw for all of what he's going to be doing behind the scenes, because there is quite a few announcements, and he will be tagging and giving you places to go that you can click on, so that if you want to find out more information, it'll be there. Jesse's in the house. How you doing, Jess? Marissa, nice sturgeon, my lady. Some beast that you were catching out there. Tammy Lynn's in the house. Definitely turkey. Yeah. Christina, you had ham. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what the tradition is for Easter. Like, what is a typical, selection for Easter? Not really sure what that is, but nice to see that everybody is getting together for Easter, spending a little bit of time with family, because let's face it, it is a different world, and hopefully it continues the way it is right now. Of course, not to mention that dreaded word COVID, but I know it looks like Quebec is going to start mandating masks again. They're being inundated with it, but hopefully here, knock on wood, Ontario numbers stay down. Sparkus is in the house. Good to see you. Lazy R streamers. Yes, sir. Oh, it's nice to see all of you. Thanks for spending time. And we have just about all the provinces represented here. Kevin Lowen's got Manitoba covered. So it's nice to see all of you. Just a few messages that I want to pass along. Yvonne, she messaged me. She's going to be doing a shoreline cleanup with OWA on April 30th. So if you want to get involved, I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be. So I recommend everyone get in touch with Yvonne to find out more about the shoreline cleanup on April 30th. I want to wish OWA and Yvonne a happy Easter. Of course, Sparkus, you bring to mind, just because I know you're going to be out, if you haven't already, running charters for walleye. If you are interested in winning some really cool prizes, there's a place where you can go where, as Mike would say, you can put your money where your mouth is, and it's called Walleye Wars. It's really popular out west, but it has come to Ontario, and I'm just going to share a very quick promo video so that you can find out more from the good folks over at Anglers Atlas and, of course, My Catch app. So have a look. If you're a walleye angler, you might want to have a listen to this. So there you have it, Walleye Wars. It is coming to the province of Ontario. So if you are a walleye fanatic, this is your tournament. $250 entry fee, and you get a chance to win some unbelievably cool prizes. So as I said, stay tuned for more updates. We might even be talking to the folks over at Anglers Atlas to find out more and talk to them direct. Because as I said, I think it's new to Ontario. As I said, it's very popular out west, and they wanted to bring it to Ontario in a big way. So stay tuned for that. Of course, we have many CFN retreats going on this year. I want to give you all an update. Our first annual Western CFN retreat is going to be happening at Jan Lake Lodge, and the incredible hosts and generous hosts over there are going to be hosting up to 20 spots that are available for our CFNers. I think we're about halfway there. I think with all our retreats, we're about halfway there. It is a $100 deposit, only $100 you have to pay in order to book your butt in a bed. Make sure you get in touch with the folks over at Jan Lake to find out more. But if you do, and you're looking to go, make sure that you mention you are a CFNer and you are looking to go to the retreat, so they book you in the right place. Now, of course, cost, you can go to their site. All of their costs are posted on their website. So go over to www.janlakelodge.com to find out what those rates are. But if the more folks, the more CFNers we get to go, the cheaper the rate is. Okay. So as I said, right now we are at, I would say halfway to the 20 spots. So we've got half occupancy there. But as I said, go over to Jan Lake, and I'm sure Steve is going to put a link up so that you folks can click on it. But we're really excited because this is our first retreat outside of the province of Ontario, and our good buddy Walter is going to be the main host there. And I look forward to seeing a lot of the pics and videos and good times that I'm sure will be had at Jan Lake. Also, of course, I can't forget to mention the beautiful place that I wish I was at right now. I wish walleye season was open, and I wish all of our CFNers were en route or at Horwood Lake Lodge for our fourth annual. We've been doing this CFN retreat up at the beautiful Horwood Lake Lodge. Have a look at how beautiful this place is.
Hi, I'm Warren.
And I'm Doris.
We have one question for you CFNers.
Are you ready? Oh, baby, am I ready. Are you ready? You bet I'm ready.
We're ready.
I'm ready. I'm going to see if my better half is ready. Hey, Tracy,
Yeah.
are you ready?
Yep. I'm ready.
So there you have it. Of course, the date is August 15th to the 20th for a 4th annual CFN retreat at Horwood Lake Lodge. Adele, great question. July 10th to 16th is the Jan Lake Lodge Western Retreat. So as I said, if you're interested in going to either one of those, and of course, last but not least, the one that we just announced, and I am happy to say we've exceeded half capacity already in less than a week. It's a 3-day, 2-night stay from September 23rd to 25th. If you want to stay a little bit later, it's $190 extra per night, but it includes a cabin, your meals, a boat, a motor, gas, and of course, worms. So that's September 23rd to 25th. The CFN 4th annual retreat up at Horwood Lake Lodge is, of course, August 15th to 20th, and Jan Lake is July 10th to 16th. So if you are looking to go to one of these unbelievable, I would say, opportunities that we have, by all means, get in touch with the right folks. Ed, you are asking what is the biggest walleye caught at Horwood Lake Lodge? That's a great question. I know there was a 12, and I heard that there was a 13-pound walleye. In terms of length, I honestly don't know. I wish I had gotten better measurements and a weight on the walleye that I had caught, because Mike Brazeau would tell you or suggest that that was a 13-plus walleye. It certainly looked like it to me, but that was such a hot day. I did not want to leave that fish out of the water for too long. It seemed like every fish that we pulled out immediately, as soon as it hit that air, was starting to lose its color. So that big girl that I caught, I made sure I threw back right away. So we didn't get the kind of measurements I would have liked to have on it. But I know that there has been people that have visited Horwood Lake Lodge that have caught a 12. I think there's several that have caught a 12. and know of one person that caught a 13. So yeah, there's some big fish in there, and of course the pike. You know, if you got big walleye, you got big pike. So it's quite the fishery, and it's definitely it's worth the trip. Although it is a long way for folks to go, it's worth the trip. Anyway, McIntosh is our OFC Nation first annual retreat. As I said, we are just past half capacity. So if you are looking to get to Camp McIntosh, which is at the mouth of the French River, and we did a promo, and I'm so happy that everybody is signed up. Make sure you don't delay on that one, because that's filling up very quickly. I'm going to bring in Mike Console on that note, and we are going to discuss CFN Fishoff news.
All right. And I will be at Camp McIntosh. Scotty will be at Camp McIntosh. The question is, will you be at Camp McIntosh? And we haven't actually even officially posted it on the CFN Fishoff page yet, and we're already half capacity. We have a video, we have that poster, and pretty much all the promotion has been right here on CFN Live, because we want to thank all of you for watching, give you first dibs. But sometimes this week, we're going to start making those promos and posts on the CFN Fishoff page. So if you're watching, you got first dibs, call, because by the time this time next week, we're going to be officially posting all that retreat info for Camp McIntosh, and it is happening September, and it's, you know, just over $300. So very reasonable and a little bit closer to than Horwood. All right, Scotty, I got some big news. We have the CFN Fishoff coming up. Make sure you register. There's almost 300 anglers participating so far in the online tournament. So all you got to do is go to cfnfishoff.com, go sign up. But new this year is we have the people who will be fishing in the TV tournament will be fishing the TV tournament and recording all their catches, the story behind their catches, as well as being participants in the online tournament at the same time. So let me go back. Let's say we have how many teams we had last year? We had like 250 teams last year. We're about 150 now.
Are you serious already?
Yeah, close to 300 anglers signed up right now. Of those 150 teams plus, because who knows how many teams are going to sign up, there will be certain teams competing in the online tournament that will also be filming for the TV show at the same time. And we've never done it this way before. We've always had the online tournament, and then based upon winners of the online tournament, they would move on to fish in the summer for the TV tournament. Now we have a whole bunch of teams that will be fishing the online tournament, and you'll see their fishes, but the story behind those catches and all the times maybe they didn't catch a fish when they went out, all that will be recorded and put onto the next season of the CFN Fishoff. So it'll be pretty cool. So the reason why I'm on today is tomorrow we have some cool announcements regarding the CFN Fishoff, more info than I've given you today. And we all know that the drag pullers have won 3 times in a row. So they'll be on live with Scotty and I, and they have a big announcement as well. So join us tomorrow for some more CFN Fishoff TV show and online tournament information. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock, Tourney Tuesdays, and we will see you there.
Right on, Mike. Well, listen, happy Easter to your family. I thought you had tenants all of a sudden at your place, but it is family that you have over celebrating Easter. Mike, I got to ask you, we posed the question to the community. What is it that they cook for Easter? Usually turkey is associated with Christmas. What are you guys eating tonight?
Tonight, what are we eating here? I haven't eaten yet, but it depends. If I'm at Merle's house, there's different food. If I'm at my parents' house, there's different food. But I know tonight, right after this, we're going over to my parents' house, and they have some fresh crappie that was caught yesterday. So I know that will be on the table tonight. My mom's like, make sure you come over. I'm gonna cook a crappy dinner. We're all laughing.
That's awesome. Right on, Mike. Well, listen, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We have some big announcement. Adele has already got the first question for tomorrow up and ready. So we will answer that and many more with Mike and I tomorrow with Turdy Tuesdays.
Yep. And with our special guest, the drag pullers, 3-time CFN Fishoff online champions, tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Come join us.
On, buddy. Well, enjoy your night. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Take care. Speaking of eating, Steve Shaw reminded me about something that is going on right now, and I want to thank everyone that has sent in their idea, their proposal, their recipe, their idea for a flavor, because CFN has an exclusive Bait to Go outdoor flavor available. The folks over there have put together this recipe exclusive for CFN, and we want you folks to name it. I don't know how many entries we already have, but we're going to make a short list, and the legacy members are going to choose who the winner is of that exclusive CFN flavor. So if you don't know what Bait to Go is, let me show you real quick.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
And as Steve has mentioned, if we pick your suggestion, if you are the winner and it's your recipe, your flavor that's chosen, courtesy of the generous Shaw family, you will be accompanying us at Camp McIntosh. So in order to win, you have to be able to go to Camp McIntosh. If not, we will have to somehow award it to someone who can. But that'll be up to the winner. It'll be up to the legacy members. But in the meantime, go to the post, CFN right after live, and make sure you put an entry. And we hopefully will see you at our CFN retreat, OFC Nation retreat at Camp McIntosh. Well, you know what? That is it for the announcements. I got to bring in our valued guests who spend their Mondays with us. They're so generous, and we are so honored because we're going to find out a little bit more of some fishing 411. But before we get started, of course, here is the opening for Jim. It is our theme song. Take it away. The one, the only, Big Jim McLaughlin. How you doing?
What's going on?
You did I'm glad it wasn't a costume malfunction, but you did a costume change. You had a different shirt on before we started.
Well, I had to put the official CFN Shimano shirt on.
Okay, I thought I was going to lose my mind here, but no. Thanks so much for clearing that up, Jim. Listen, I got to ask,
Was that brought to you by the Wannabe Pro?
Careful, he's listening.
I know.
That's so funny.
Inside joke.
It is an inside joke. As I said to everybody who cares to listen, sometimes the conversations before we go live are more interesting and entertaining than the ones when we do go live, but they are not what I consider. I would say PG rated at the best.
Oh,
best,
come on. We weren't bad tonight.
Well, we were good. You're right. We were good. What'd you have for Easter dinner, Jim?
Well, we went to my daughter's house on Friday, and they had the big windstorm.
Yeah.
And man, I have never seen so much damage from wind in my life.
It was,
I
I
have
tell
never
you, it
seen
has
the
been a
damage
winter
here.
of wind.
We saw street lights in the street with the power arcing off them, spraying all over the place.
Oh, wow.
There was trees down. Every sign, the Billy Bob's birthday coming, all those signs people put up everywhere for businesses and whatever, all flipped over. A buddy of mine works at one of the dumps, and he said to me when he got there on the Saturday morning, there was a lineup of people already with trucks and trailers with branches and stuff and everything they cleaned up. It was absolutely savage. But anyways, at my daughter's place, the power went out, so the ham was cooked, so we had ham and pie.
There you go. Now, is that a tradition? Is that a McLaughlin tradition at Easter, or do you flip it around?
Usually ham or turkey. Yeah. We only got to do the one house this year because, as I mentioned to you, 2 of them went to Calgary, and the other 4 are up by just below Mattawa now.
Yeah.
So it's that's like a 7-hour round trip for us. So we don't do that too often, but it's what it is. So we had a good time over there with the little ones, and of course Tammy always gets to see them, and nice. It's grandmas are special.
That amen there. And of course your latest issue of Just Fishing is up and available.
And we got the main man on the cover.
That's that indeed. Have you got a copy right there in front of you?
No, we don't, because we don't have printed ones anymore, right?
No printed ones. Okay.
Yeah, right. But I can show you.
Let's do it. There it is. The one and only Al Linder, holding one of our beloved walleye. And I'll tell you, when it comes to walleye, I think everybody's got the itch, unless they're down in the Windsor area right now targeting walleye on the Detroit River. Everybody's got the itch for walleye, Jim. And one of the things that you want to present tonight to our viewers, of course, is making sure you're prepared.
Yeah, it was really funny. I showed you the picture earlier here. I'll show it to you in a second, but I hear so many stories. Like I had a guy drop in here a little while ago. It was really nice. He's got a farm. He dropped off some eggs. He does that. He's just a great guy. Loves fishing, and he drops by once in a while, and we have a chat and whatever. And he came by and he said to me, he said, he says, I keep breaking my line. I said, when do you break it? And he said, always on the hook sets. And I said, well, you're like 6'3", 250. I wouldn't want to mess with you when I was a young lad. You're just setting the hook too hard. It's what it is. If it breaks on the hook sets, either you're not so wrong or you're just setting the hook too hard. And you don't need to wind up quite the way you used to. That's why I say you always got a kick out of watching me set the hook.
100%, dude. I swear, it was what it used to be. Thunder. Every time you did it, I was like, okay, well, there's the lightning. Where's the thunder?
No, it's what, and when we learned to set hooks, it was with mono. So you really had to. And my old tournament partner Rocky Crawford, probably the best angler ever in Canada. He was absolutely incredible because it only took him about a month to realize that he was breaking braid on the hook sets constantly.
Wow.
Like we had stopped fishing together when the braid became big time. I had just chosen not to fish tournaments anymore to make a living instead. And as my mother-in-law used to say, to make an honest living, she didn't think that going out and trying to win a boat on the weekend was an honest living. But the number of times that you heard that sickening snap of the line with him in the boat, and eventually he got around that. He didn't do it, and it was just it just changed things for him, how easy it was to set the hook and things like that. But when I talk to you about being prepared and staying prepared, I guess is the best way, and that means that everything should be right when you're fishing. Like you should have everything right. I saw a guy post a picture, and I'm not knocking anybody. I don't know how this happened, but he posted a picture of a giant walleye. I mean, a giant walleye. It was like an arm holder, great big old female.
Wow.
and the crankbait in the mouth. You had a snap and a crankbait in the mouth. I don't know whether we're going to get this to clear up if it's going to pick it.
Yeah,
There you go.
right there. Hold it right there. Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
that's a cross lock snap, and as you can see, it's not closed. It's just caught. That's supposed to go all the way across and catch on the outside. And they're holding up. They're holding up a picture. He's a guide. They're holding up a picture, and that had happened. Now I don't know whether that happened fighting the fish, which it's almost impossible to happen because you know how hard it is to close one of those yourself. You usually, a lot of times, you have to use pliers. They're really, especially with the small ones, you just can't get a grip on them to do it. But there's just so many little things like that out there. You know, I hate to come back down to tie-in knots. People don't sharpen hooks anymore. Hooks come out of the box now. They're just like razor blades, like I don't know whether you've ever used one of these, Scotty. It's a thing called a Tokyo rig, and when you take it out of the package, that's a VMC hook. That hook in there will be razor sharp, and I think people think that once they get a hook, that just jumped out at me.
Dude, it'll never end. That'll go on forever.
No, until you post a 10-pound walleye on a Tokyo rig. You know, it's all good. But you know, like they think because things come so sharp now out of the package that they don't have to touch them, that they stay sharp forever. Well, a lot of those things are so sharp that any little touch on them, you know, it touches the side of the boat. You don't realize you're taking out of the fish's mouth, and you use the pliers to get the hook out, or you pop it out, and the plier jams off another point, and then you lose a fish two or three casts later. There's so many other things like that you really, really need to pay attention to, because you constantly hear people talk about losing fish and you know, oh, my line broke. Well, you know, line doesn't just break. Generally speaking, we break it. That's the way it happens. You know, I mean, if you don't pull too hard one way, it doesn't break the other way. You know what I mean? It's you know, and of course you can get bit off or whatever. But you know, checking the line. A lot of people using fluorocarbon leaders now. They got to check the knots that attach between the braid and the fluorocarbon. You know, just because it's there and it's a great knot, and you know, it's actually stronger than either piece of the line when you put the two of them together, it wears out. And with a lot of guys now fishing with a longer leader, starting off with maybe 7, 8, 10 feet of line, like you've heard me talk about my little schooling with Chong in the boat with him when he had like a 15-foot leader. Now that's to get the knot into the reel, and you can do like the same thing, because it still seems to transmit pretty good with the braid, even although you've got that big chunk of fluorocarbon at the beginning. But there's just so many little things like that you can do, and a lot of them are, you know, I won't say old wives' tales, but a lot of them are just things that are a little bit, they're older, and you really should be addressing them. You know, like there are things that don't, like there were things that happened 20 years ago. They shouldn't be happening now.
No, 100%.
It shouldn't be happening to you now. Like the average person who fishes now is so much more well-educated. So much more well-educated.
100%.
It's like absolutely true. Yeah, like Anthony just sit here, check it, you know, check your leaders.
How often are you sharpening your hooks?
Sorry?
How often are you sharpening your hooks?
As soon as they won't stick in the back of my thumbnail, especially if I'm using a single hook. Like if I'm using a crankbait, I don't fish tournaments anymore. If the odd fish gets off, I'm not worried about it. You know, it's just that kind of thing. But as soon as I see something that just doesn't, I'll take a crankbait. People say to me, "What did you just do there?" And I say, "Oh, I checked all the hooks, and I rub them against my thumbnail. And if I can't get it to dig in on a pretty shallow angle, like anybody can get it to dig in if you push it down and then try to pull it, you know, a dull hook will do that. But no, it's just something. And if you start the year off like that right now, it's just going to make a huge difference for you. Absolutely monster difference.
Now, with most of the crankbaits that we buy, they're usually set with hooks that the manufacturer thinks are I guess a good fit for that crankbait.
Oh, a lot of it has to do with balance.
Right.
That's why a lot of times here, Scotty. Oh, have I got any here?
Because the question I have, Jim, is how often would you be changing the trebles on the crankbaits that come from the manufacturer at all, if at all?
It depends. When I fished in tournaments, I would use lighter wire hooks. When I mean lighter, sorry, I don't mean that they're not as strong, but that the hook itself, like I used to use a vanadium hook because it was lighter. Excuse me, and it was one size bigger because I just wanted the bigger hook. So when the bass tried to eat that crankbait, if he didn't, come at the back and or whatever, if they just broadsided, the hooks were bigger. They were just hanging out there, really more, a lot more apt to get caught, but not big enough that they can tangle.
Okay.
There's nothing worse in the world than having a lure with hooks that tangle. If you want to see me change hooks, like if I bought a lure, if I was I work with people. If I bought a lure and I brought it home and it was brand new out of the box and the hooks tangled, I'd phone the company. I would email them.
Right.
Why do you sell a lure that is going to frustrate an angler? Right. And he thinks he's doing the right thing. He's bought your lure. He's trying to figure out, I'm looking at it. The hooks are hanging down. I cast, it gets tangled. It comes back to the old corkscrew in the water or whatever.
Yeah.
Things like that. There's no reason for it that you would have something come out like that.
So and this is the reason I'm asking, because Ed brings up a great point. I find that a lot of folks will change those hooks. Obviously, maybe people have color preference, but in Ed's case, it might change the wobble of the crankbait.
Well, that's what I said in the beginning. A lot of them are tremendously balanced.
Yeah.
Especially with today's stuff. Stuff that was, like long ago, it just wasn't a factor. And I talked to you about everything growing up and getting better.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible, what comes on the baits now. Like there's a lot of the baits, like we look at Heroes baits there, knee shine. They come with those silky gray hooks on them, and those hooks they're just beautiful hooks. They're some of the best treble hooks made. Yeah. But it's also what makes the lure a buck more expensive.
Amen.
Because it's another 50 cents a piece toward those hooks. They're tremendously expensive.
Corey's got a question here. I don't know the answer, so I'm going to leave it to the expert. Has anyone ever thought of using a sidewash hook on your crankbait?
Yeah, I know guys that have done it. I wouldn't do it.
What is a sidewash hook?
Sidewash hook, it's the big single hook.
Oh, that's what they call it? Okay. All right.
In fact, the other day when I posted those where are they?
Sidewash. Okay. Yes. All right. Well,
yeah,
thanks.
It's not sidewash, it's sidewash.
Sidewash, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where they went here, but I had them, and they're just, you see them on spoons a lot of times. Trolling in the Great Lakes, you'll see them on the spoons. Has a big eye, big long point. It makes it easier to get around a salmon or a rainbow trout's jaw, something like that in the Great Lakes. It makes it a little bit easier. Is what I'm assuming, because I'm not experienced with that stuff.
Right.
I know that they're out there, but yeah, to put that on a crankbait, it's, to me, the barb is way too far from the point for fishing for bass. You'd have to drill that hook literally a third of an inch into a fish's mouth.
Oh, okay.
And they're really heavy duty wire hooks. Yeah, they come. The eye is open on the end, so you can put it on the lures and things like that. It's something that's there. A lot of guys use them, and I mean, if you keep your rod bent, like I've said before, the barb isn't the most important thing if you keep the rod bent. It's like having, it's just like being like a gaff where they're caught. They can't get off unless the line gets loose. Yeah.
When a crankbait comes out of the package, usually they're tuned by the manufacturer, but sometimes they're out of tune. What are some things that folks can do when they put it behind the boat and they see that the wobble's a little off? I know the eyelet at the front is something that you can adjust. Is there anything you can do?
Yeah, you can adjust the eyelet at the front. You've got to have really good pliers. You can't have, if you're trying to adjust it and it pops off a couple of times, you've probably ruined the lure. It's never going to run straight as an arrow. It's never going to run straight as an arrow. You need something that is like, well, here's something that would be like square like that, that is getting a grip on it. Not something that's all worn off and got no grooves left in it and everything else. You need something that's really going to get a really good grip and move that thing. And all you want to do is give it a twist. I mean, you just turn it the opposite way to what it's going. And I'm talking like a 64th of an inch. It's like it's so minute. And then after you move it, unless it's a wire through crankbait, if it's one that has an insert or a screw type thing or something, if it's a wire insert, and you can see the wires looped, and it's one piece of wire,
Yeah.
it's not as important. But if it's any type of a screw, you need to go and put some crazy glue on that, or a little bit of epoxy, and let it dry after you adjust it.
Gotcha.
But like I said too, you don't see lures that don't run straight as often now out of the box, just because of CNC mold making when the molds come out of the machine. I mean, I've played with several of the new Macbeths from Shimano now, and I played with them in the swimming pool, and they're like straight as they run straight as an arrow, every one. I think I've had seven or eight of them I tried, and every one slow, fast, whatever, like an arrow out of the box.
Got to ask the question, but I already know the answer. Tie direct or use a wide clip?
Almost all the time I'm going to use a clip.
Yeah.
Almost all the time. The only time I would see any other reason not to use a clip is if you were having trouble with a certain kind of weed or something. There's certain times of the year where different weeds can be a pain in the butt. That weed that was in the middle of July that was crispy and would crack off, all of a sudden you get into the middle of September and it gets a little softer because it's not growing the same way, and it'll catch on anything. But like a good snap is designed, and if you're fishing with a crankbait, you shouldn't be using a swivel with it. If you're casting a crankbait, you should never have a swivel on it.
That was going to be my next
Just a
question.
snap, and those, I don't have any here now. I rant about those little VMC snaps.
Yeah.
Because they're round, they have that big loop, and that's what allows the crankbait to really be free. But there's another thing. A lot of people use that snap so they can change lures quickly.
Right.
That doesn't mean you don't have to retie your knot,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you've got that fluorocarbon or braid or whatever wrapped around the thin piece of wire. You've tested that knot by pulling it as hard as you can when you make the knot. I learned that from a guy I fished with from Pennsylvania, Ernie Jandurko, who used to have a cottage on the Big Rito. And that's the guy you've heard me talk about, that
Yep.
he put the finishing touches to Rocky and I
Yep.
as anglers, as tournament anglers. And that was something that I learned from him. One day I was tying on a jig. We were fishing a tournament in the Ottawa River. And I tied a jig on. I tightened the knot down, wet it, tightened the knot down, gave it a good pull. And he looked at me, and he's got a really strong Pennsylvania accent. And he greased me up pretty good for not pulling it much harder to test it. And I was retying a bunch of stuff, and about three or four things later, I had a new line on a reel and whatever, so you're not thinking the line is ever going to, I tied the knot, and I pulled it down a little bit and gave it a real, and it just snapped, and he just went like this to me. We're sitting in the boat in the parking lot, and he just goes like that, eh?
Yeah.
He never let me live that down. We won a lot of stuff together, a lot of money. He was a great guy.
Now you've got different colored snaps. You've got your chrome, you've got your gold, you got your black. Is there a particular preference in color?
I just use black.
Just black, yeah.
Any of that dirty gray black stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
Yeah.
another thing a lot of people ask me too, if you're using a snap, should you take the split ring off? And to that, I say no at all, because that's really what helps give it that freedom of movement.
Gotcha.
Where the whole thing. That's why you should never use one of those. Do me a favor tonight. If anybody out there has those brass snap swivels in their tackle box, the way it comes down to a V, go and take them, put them in a recycle bin, or open the window and just throw them as far away from the house as you can get.
Yes, absolutely. Jim, what's coming up in Just Fishing and the Just Fishing family? Oh, he just froze. It must be the weather. It's got to be that snow that's falling. He just froze. Let's wait a sec to see if Jim's going to come back. If not, we're going to leave. We're going to leave him with a smile on his face anyway. I love to see that. Dressed in Shimano, I'll tell you, he is the size of this man. He is the billboard for Shimano. But that might be the end of Jim for tonight, which is just in time to bring in our next beautiful guest. And we're going to do so with a word from our sponsor. And I haven't got it queued up just yet. Here it is. Lawrence is coming up next. Stay tuned.
Honoring past achievements as we step into the future. Elevate, innovate, reimagine. Make the best better. That's what we do. Radically redefined, the NRX Plus is the culmination of our obsessive drive to forge the most advanced fishing tools on the planet.
Well, I'll tell you, Lawrence, we've got a great crowd tonight, offering up some great advice. Thanks so much for all of you who are watching and offering some great advice of your own, things that you have found that work. That perhaps maybe we haven't thought about. So big shout out to all of you. We really appreciate your participation. And Lawrence, I got to ask and say happy Easter to you. But what did you have for Easter dinner?
Well, you'd be surprised, but I spent yesterday maybe, a couple, 3 hours on the back deck, taking apart the gas grill right down to the foundation, had the shop vac out, gave it a good cleaning with a paint scraper and, clean the iron grills and put it all back together and runs beautiful. So we had
awesome
burgers.
The foundation of any good meal. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. There's no better way to celebrate Easter than a good burger.
Oh, man.
Some interesting news that you're going to be sharing with us, and it's more of a tease than news, but it's an interesting event that is going on, and it pretty much has gone on under the noses of all of us. But when it comes to the muskie spawning grounds in the St. Lawrence, you're going to be sharing with us some, I would say, epic news that as anglers, we're going to celebrate and we're going to cherish as a win. So chalk one up for the anglers.
We're going to have a YouTube interview on Wednesday afternoon. CFN will pump that out as soon as we get it done. And so you're going to hear from the people that were involved with this story. So people like the Dr. John Farrow, and we've had him on Bluefish Radio before. He's the one person who knows more about muskie on the upper St. Lawrence River than anybody. That's what he does. He has a research station. He follows the muskellunge population, the pike population. He understands the whole system, the big picture, everything from gobies on up. And he's been saying for some time now, the muskie and pike population in the upper St. Lawrence River are in a bit of trouble, right? They're vulnerable to some viruses they're picking up from the large gobies that they're feeding on. It's just affecting muskellunge primarily. Pike are in trouble for a lack of habitat. They're losing their wetlands, and with the river going up and down like a yo-yo, wetlands are wet and underwater, 10 feet of water, and then next thing you know, they're high and dry because they're trying to empty out Lake Ontario as fast as they can. So they open up all the dams on the St. Lawrence River to let it rip, right? Just let it rip. And so it's been a tough 5-6 years now for pike and muskie. Then add on to that, the U.S. Post Office Service wants to set up a giant sort of shipping center, with real ships on Blind Bay, kind of close to me, right? I'm thinking, hey, man, I got to take care of this guy. Blind Bay, man. But Blind Bay is just across from Brockville, near Clayton, New York, on the St. Lawrence River. And it's a huge stretch of prime muskie spawning habitat. So now they're going to build docks and wharfs and harden the whole thing up. Ships coming and going. They're going to dredge it, right? So it just literally destroy this habitat, the spawning habitat for the muskellunge. So the upper St. Lawrence River Keeper, we have these river keepers, right? This goes way back to the 1960s and 70s when a bunch of anglers on the Hudson's River just outside New York City spotted some dead fish floating and got up in arms about it and started a movement called River Keeper. And we have them all over the world now. It's swimmable, drinkable, fishable, right? All three of those things. So they got up in arms about this, and they started letter writing campaigns. We put in the Bluefish News a few times, and they even had some senators getting involved. Well, they found a solution, or a solution found them. And I'm going to leave it there because I think you want to hear the whole story told by the people who actually wrote the book. So tune in. We'll get that news up, that video up. It's going to be, you're going to hear from the people who brought this story to our attention, who championed the rescue, who muskie anglers, muskie researchers, muskie guides, river keepers, and the ultimate person organization that got this turned around. So check it out. It's a great story, you know, a great story. And I don't want to give away the ending, but I think it's pretty obvious what the ending is. So how did we get there, and what does it look like? You got to tune in for that one.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, it's not often we as anglers can celebrate a win, as I mentioned, but how we got to that and how we arrived to it and what it entails is truly quite epic. And, you know, as I said, for the hard work and dedication to some folks who, you know, see a need to be more than just a steward of a body of water. They stepped up in a huge way. And you're going to find out more, so stay tuned to that. But yeah, absolutely. Next on the list, of course, you are neck deep when it comes to fish consumption advisories. I'd like to say you got your nose to the ground on that, and you're going to update us and give us a little bit more on what's going on.
I've been poking my nose into this for a while. Like, you know, I've gone to some conferences. I've met up with the Ontario government officials that actually set these fish consumption advisories. How much fish, which species, which part of Ontario does that species come from? How often are they tested? What are they tested for? How much can you eat safely if you're of one sex or another, of one age or another? You know, it used to all come hand in hand with our fishing regulations book every year from the MNRF, and then they didn't, and now if you look at the fishing regulations handbooks, if you can get your hands on one, because they only publish I think 50,000 of them, and then they're gone. 1.4 million licensed anglers in Ontario, and they publish 50,000 handbooks. Everyone else go online, but there's no app for this. But you look, and there's not even a link, not even a mention in the fishing regs about fish consumption advisories. Now, folks, every part of Ontario and every species has fish consumption advisories, and some of them it's unlimited, right? And you know, and that's for sure should be the case everywhere. Yeah. But some are absolutely don't eat, just don't eat, or one meal a month. So how do you know which is which, and how do you know if it's that you even have these? Like people that are new to angling, and there's been a lot of people new to angling in the last couple of 3 years due to COVID, a lot of new people getting into fishing. They don't even know about this. You know, it's kind of like cigarettes, right? You know, 40, 50 years ago, cigarettes were cool. I smoked, and it was cool. It was a fun thing to do. You know, everyone smoked, you know, and then slowly but surely we were told, oh, it's not a good thing. And slowly but surely we had these little advisories on the cigarette packs, you know, in small print in the back corner, you know, may cause lung cancer. And those got bigger and bigger and scarier. And pretty soon, you know, people just stopped being able to smoke anywhere, and people just stopped smoking more or less. A lot of people no longer smoke for health reasons. It was a huge drain on the healthcare system, and it shortened your lives, pretty much guaranteed it would shorten your lives. I'm not saying that, you know, eating these fish can cause cancer, but there are very real health issues with this. So I've been leading the Fish Health Network for the Great Lakes. I got it started 3 years ago. So we just launched a research initiative. We have a young lawyer from the Canadian Environmental Law Association, and we have a young scientist from Queen's University. We put together a scope of work, and over the next 6 months, they're going to look at fish consumption advisories in Ontario, New York State, Quebec, and any Indigenous community that has fish consumption advisories. Going to compare them. Which ones, how do they compare? How are they made? How are they issued? How are they tested? What are the baselines that they're using to test and create these things in the first place? And some of the things that have changed over time. So it's an interesting. The more I find out about this, and the more people I talk to, and there's going to be an interview coming out on Bluefish Radio shortly, a technician that just spent 2 years getting their hands on these. A lot of it was secondhand knowledge that they found on the internet here and there, and they rebuilt a sort of database of fish consumption advisories on the St. Lawrence. Now we're looking at all the Great Lakes, but it's pretty. These things change every 5-6 years. The rules change, and it's just remarkable how laissez-faire, how casual the government takes this in now almost buries this information from us and anglers as if it's not important.
Well, it's a great point you bring up, and it's a question that I've always had. Of course, there's a lot of debate where folks have suggested that we need to revisit, the amount of fish that we're allowed to keep. When it comes to, do we need to keep 50 perch? But as archaic as some of these catch limits are, I'm interested to see how often are these advisories when it comes to consumption. How often are they updated? Like what is the frequency when it comes to the testing of fish that we consume, or the potential fish that we consume?
Mm-hmm. Every couple of years is sort of the rule of thumb. They'll go with a net into an area. They'll cast, put the net out, a gill net or a seine net, depending on the fish they're going after. And then they see what they get in the net. And if the fish that they're concerned with are in their net, they maybe get 1 or 2 or 3, maybe up to 5. That's all. That's the max they're looking for is 5. But if the ones that they're interested in aren't in the net, they're gonna just move on. So it could be 6, 8 years, sometimes 10 years that before they get another sample to update the advisories. And then how are they measuring what's safe, what isn't safe? Those bars keep moving as well, right? And to be honest, some of these fish are getting, safer and safer to eat, and it's getting better and better. Mercury levels are going down. Mercury it exists in the muscle tissue, not the fat, and it takes 90 days for half-life. So if there's no new mercury entering the system, every 90 days, the mercury level in a fish will reduce by half. And then the remaining half will reduce by half again in 90 days, and so forth and so on.
Wow.
So as long as
that's very interesting.
Yeah. So as long as there's not new mercury coming into the system, it gets better. But if the mercury coming into the system is excessive and the fish stays in that area where there's excessive mercury, the mercury bioaccumulates in the muscle tissue, goes up and up and up. PCB, on the other hand, like in our salmon, steelhead, Lake Ontario, is more the fat. So that's why it's important to trim away the fat or cook that fish on a griddle or a grill where the fat, runs away from the fish. But what about some of these people that like to make a chowder, right? They cut up the fish, put it in a chowder. Or a pan with a bunch of, oil and everything gets eaten. Then so much for that. You really got to make sure you cut the fat away. But so there's different ways of preparing that aren't taken into consideration. Same with a pike. So they say, well, you catch a pike, they're going to say you can eat 1 portion of this pike because it's got so much toxin in it once a month. And then they'll say a perch. You can eat 1 perch because it has this much toxin once a month, but no one eats 1 perch at a time, right? But so these little simple, realistic things aren't necessarily taken into consideration. And then
it's a lot like when you're counting calories, and it's posted on the box or whatever it is you're eating, 50 calories. But if you read the fine print, of course it says if you eat 1 cracker, it's got 50 calories, and by that time you've already munched down a dozen of them. Erica brings up a great question, and it's something that I've always abided by and always thought this way. But I'm going to ask you: are smaller fish safer, or is that just a wives' tale?
You would think, right? But then, just not last year, lakes they put in a fish consumption advisory for smelt on Lake Superior. Don't eat the smelt. I mean, how small can you get, right? And normally fish that size should be no brainer. I mean, how long does a smelt live? 1, 2, 3 years? But no, you can't eat them at all because of chemicals called PFAS, right? The things we use for Scotch Guard and fire retardant and things like that. It's used in a whole bunch of different applications, but it's in Lake Superior now, and it's in the smelt. So, if it's in the smelt and there's fish eating the smelt, and then they're bioaccumulating this, so that's a bad sign. I mean, Lake Superior is supposed to be one of the most pristine Great Lakes. It's the most pristine of the Great Lakes we have. It's supposed to be, there's very little industry on, very few people living around Lake Superior. It's not wilderness, but a lot of it is.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a beautiful, clean lake, cold, fresh, clear, dip a cup in, have a drink kind of thing. And now you can't even eat the smelt.
Yeah. And what happens, when it comes to, the food chain, does the contaminants get amplified in the hierarchy of who eats what? So for instance, as you said, like you've got mercury and smelt. Does it get amplified, obviously, because that lake trout per se will eat a dozen smelt that only has a little bit of mercury, and by the time it consumes those 12 smelt, now the mercury content has quadrupled in the lake trout? Is that how it works?
For sure. Like if a muskellunge eats a perch, and a perch has already got a fish consumption advisory on it, limiting but then the muskellunge eats, how many perch, right? It doesn't read the fish consumption advisories. So it's bioaccumulating fish that have bioaccumulated. I mean, never eat a muskie over 54 inches. I mean, I know you're allowed to keep one, but don't eat it. For God's sake, don't eat it.
So when it comes to the research, I guess it would be just obvious, if you're finding it in the small fish, it hazard to say you're going to find it in the bigger fish, correct?
Oh yeah. This misnomer of young fish, small fish, it doesn't apply. Unfortunately, I thought it would, but then I started talking to the experts, and there's no rhyme or reason. It just doesn't apply. There's no logic to it anymore. So old fish, young fish, it's about preserving fish stocks, not to eat the breeders. But when it comes to keeping yourself safe, you really have to follow the fish consumption advisories for the area you're fishing. And I've been asking the government, look, when you're getting people to go online to get their regulations, right? Here I am, I'm on this location, I'm fishing for this species. What can I keep? Why aren't the consumption advisories popping up as well?
Well, I have to agree. And to further that, with the price of food going up, I'm going to assume, I'm only going to make an assumption that folks are going to be eating more wild fish than ever before. Mm-hmm. And to your point, I think it's probably a good idea that research probably should have had been done long before now, but it's never too late. Mm-hmm. So let's encourage our biologists who are doing that research, hopefully that they get it done quick, so that we can get that information out to the anglers that are going to be consuming fish. And we love to promote catch and release, but we also like to promote the odd fish fry, and there's no harm in that.
Oh yeah,
yes, of course. Yeah, of course. There's contaminants in that body of water that you need to know as an angler and a consumer of fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And this is about what we know. And really, I think when we know more about what we need to know, we know there's a problem out there. We just need to know what that problem looks like and get a better understanding of that, just like tobacco. And then maybe we're going to learn a few things we didn't even know we should have known about as well. And that could be a little bit scary. But you know what? In the end, this knowledge is going to give us the power to say, look, there's 1.4 million licensed anglers catching fish in this province and in Ontario, and it's an $8.75 billion fishing industry, and only 250 million of that is commercial fish, which, by the way, you can catch these fish commercially and ship them overseas to our trading partners, and no one's looking at those fish. There is no fish consumption advisories that get sent off with those fish. It's buyer beware. Right. Yikes. So there's a little bit of don't ask, don't tell going on here, right? Because it's a $250 million annual fishing industry of catching and selling these fish abroad.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some big players involved here, guys. Some big players, but you know what? We're the biggest player. If you look at the value of the fishing industry on the Great Lakes,
Amen.
The commercial stuff is only 2.8% of it. We're the other 78.3% 2% of the value. No, sorry, 97.2% of the value of the fishing on the Great Lakes is recreational angling.
Wow.
And that's $8.5 billion annually Canadian. Well, of course, that's both sides of the border, Canadian and American, but that's the Great Lakes. That's what it's worth. The most valuable freshwater fishery in the world. I think we need to stand up for it a little bit and say, hang on, you guys, like, stop messing up our fish.
Amen. And speaking on behalf of the majority, and Steve has shared a great link when it comes to the mercury in fish. Alicia is asking, which was going to be my next question. You guys are reading my mind. Are there any great places or resources that folks can go to find out more about consumption advisories?
Surprisingly little. Like, I'm talking to people, but I think, if you look at the International Joint Commission, they started just before COVID. They started a pilot project with the Mohawks of Akwesasne, because there's a community that gets conflicting fish consumption advisories. The New York side of the St. Lawrence River says, don't eat the walleye. On the Canadian side, you can eat, 5 meals a month. And then who do you believe, right? And they're right in the middle of the river. So the International Commission said, we'll go look into that. Haven't heard boo from them since, right? This is going on 3 years now since that was announced. So there's not a ton of information out there. Nothing on the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission. Not a peep out of there. And like I said, look at the fishing regs. There's no information. Don't even mention fish consumption advisory. So if anything, this information is getting, year by year, it's getting buried. It's getting buried. We're going to bring it back out, and we're going to, I think we're going to get a little bit of spotlight on this, a little bit more focus from mainstream media on this, and not to scare people away from fishing, but I think we need to know. We just need to know what's there.
Amen. Last question, and it's a good one. You would think it would be a straightforward answer, but I'm going to let you wade in here. Ed is asking, why are chemical manufacturers not being held responsible for the cleanup of our lakes? Is it a monetary reason, or is it a physical reason?
There is 49 areas of concern on the Great Lakes, on the American side and Canadian side combined. These are documented areas of the Great Lakes that have been contaminated seriously by industry in the past, right? So these are being cleaned up one by one, a few at a time. There's money being allocated by the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission, the Great Lakes Commission, the Great Lakes, all these political organizations on the Great Lakes. There's a lot of them, and they are allocating money to get this job done, and it's happening. It's happening. But this is government money being spent on cleaning up industries' dirty practices. Industries like, car factories that existed 50 years ago. Companies are still around, and they have been sued successfully to pay for some of this cleanup. It's happened. And but not on the Canadian side. But then there's 14 chemicals in the Great Lakes that are considered harmful. There's 2,000 different chemicals in the Great Lakes that we put in there.
Smokes.
Yeah, 2,000. So, and that's not the combination of chemicals either, right? So once you add this like a test tube, like a science experiment, you add this, you add that, you add this, you add that. What do you got? That's something else again. So that's not even taken into consideration.
Jeez. 2,000 different chemicals. And of course, Erica is asking, some areas are badly infected even for building docks. Yes, the preservative used in wood finds its way into our waters. And yes, it is extremely harmful to the fish and, of course, our water. Yes, and with cancer on the rise, can we attribute some of this to the quality of our water? I don't want to say for sure, but I would say it's probably part and parcel of it.
Well, there's even things like endocrine disruption, which messes up with your sex organs, right? Your sexual orientation, not your preferences, but who you are. Right? There's a lot of that happening with fish with different chemicals now. Male fish that are now male and female. So that's happening, and then there's fish that are also being medicated with antidepressants because it's passed through our urine into the toilets, and it goes right through the wastewater treatment facilities and right back into the lakes and rivers, and that's there. The same as the pill, right? That's a hormone. and that's getting into the fish as well. So there's simple things that are happening, lots of simple things that we're doing that are just happening, and so there's a lot of undoing that's going to need doing. But in the meantime, there's a tremendous amount of fish in the Great Lakes. Tremendous amount of fish.
Yeah. In the meantime, hopefully we can lobby and vote in people that have that not in the back burner or, on a paper that's on a shelf collecting dust. Hopefully we can somehow spawn some action. And, it all starts with clean water, and it, pardon the pun, filters down from there. And, well, listen, Lawrence, I look forward to that upcoming interview. And of course, the video we're going to be sharing in regards to the spawning grounds for the muskie in the upper St. Lawrence. And again, thank you so much to both you and Jim for joining us tonight and continuing to join us every Monday to give us a lot more information on our fisheries.
Thanks for having me, you guys. And please pass on any news stories that you need to have explored. Happy to do that. We love digging in on this stuff.
Right on, brother. You take care. You have yourself a great week.
Thanks, buddy. You too, man.
Okay, dude. And typically we would have Jay Barnews join us, but unfortunately he's busy tonight, and he will be joining us next Monday. We were thinking of doing a steelhead show tomorrow. Unfortunately, it just got too late, but we were hoping to set up something, as steelhead opener is just around the corner. We might be doing it the following Tuesday if we're not going to do Attorney Tuesday. But in the meantime, I bid you all a farewell and have a great night. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your participation. The comments have been fantastic tonight. Keep up the great work, and make sure you go to our CFN page and put in a suggestion for the flavor. You'll see the post. We'll be sharing it again throughout the week. And as I said, we're going to make a short list. Our legacy members are going to choose the winner. And if you are the winner and you're able to go to Camp McIntosh, guess what? You will be joining us. And we look forward to that, as well as all of the retreats that are going on this year, whether it's out west or here in the province of Ontario. In the meantime, as Steve said, stay safe. That snow is continuing to fall. And we want to see you all here safe and sound next Monday. In the meantime, take care. Dave Mercer, take it away, buddy. Lead us out.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.